She went from a baker to a treasure hunter to a map hustler to a religious fanatic with
Do we know like what the religion was?
I don't.
Yeah, I wonder if she like got into it.
Essential oils, probably.
It's
why the
natural.
medicine man's
It's
out
the
there.
natural progression.
Yeah, you get her out of here.
Hell is this oil?
She was like, just rub your temples.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Cash Me Outside podcast, Lost Treasure Series, Season 2, Episode 3. We have a very exciting episode and some very exciting updates.
As is like a tradition for Cash Me Outside, when we get a new co-host, it's smack dab in the middle of a season.
That's how we do it.
Every single time.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's no drama. Christian just didn't have time to do two at once. So he's going to focus on the Utah treasure hunt. And Bridger is a friend of Alex and a new friend of mine that's going to be replacing Christian. Welcome, Bridger.
Yeah, we are stoked to have Bridger join us now as the third member of the Lost Treasure series. Bridger, introduce yourself to our adoring dozens of fans.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. Couldn't be more excited to participate in the search for knowledge and hopefully eventually treasure.
Yeah.
My name's Bridger. I grew up in Salt Lake City. My dad chose to name me Bridger after Jim Bridger, the mountain man and explorer, who you may have heard of if you're familiar with Tales of the American West. He hoped that I would engender the same spirit of adventure and exploration. So that's a little bit about me, and I feel like that.
You're already already more appropriate for this podcast than I am.
Yeah, what the hell are you named after, Chad?
Yeah.
Like some guy in a bar that's like super annoying. If you look up Chad in Urban Dictionary, it is the worst definition. It's so bad. Everyone else's names
the
are
Chad
so
name,
good. It's
I feel like the Chad and the Karen names have had a bad run the last
Chad
5 or
and
6
Brad,
years.
yeah.
Brad's
No,
too,
the next season of this podcast will be dedicated to reclaiming the
That's
treasure
it.
of the name,
Of the name
Chad.
Chad.
You're
Yeah.
taking it back.
Let's go.
You're finding where
Chad's
it
If I
went.
find
Unite.
something, I can rebrand it.
I love it.
Yeah, and you have been a listener in the past, so I mean, for anybody listening right now, you never know what's going to happen. You might be replacing me in a couple months,
Depending on who you're named after.
Right, yeah.
And depending on
If
your
your
treasure
name is
hunting
Cortez-
credentials, of course.
True. If your name is Hernan Cortez, if your name is Montezuma, we want to talk to you. Let's chat.
Send us an email.
Exactly. Guys, we're going to get into a really, really fun episode. So really excited about the rest of the season. Really quick recap, 30 seconds. We're talking about the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine in the Superstition Mountains, which is just outside of Phoenix, Arizona. So far, we've given the origin story, which is this guy, Jacob Waltz, who was a Deutschman, who's a German immigrant, who allegedly found the map or got access to the map to the Peralta gold mines, which is an old kind of aristocratic Mexican family that was given the rights to mine the Superstition Mountains and accordingly found just incredibly rich veins of gold up in the Superstition Mountains. And Jacob Waltz continued that. He mined it throughout his life and got really wealthy or somewhat wealthy doing it. And we left off at the end of last episode with Jacob Waltz's demise, which is where we will pick up. So if you guys will recall, Jacob Waltz, did you have something, Chad?
Do we want to do the mystery of the week?
Oh my
segment?
gosh.
I mean,
let's do
we
the-
can skip it, but I was actually really excited about this one.
That's your teaser for what we're going to talk about after Chad's Mystery of the Week.
Mystery of the week. I'm actually really excited that we're doing this. I think I'm the only one that's
I love the Mystery of the Week. The green people,
bring
I
it.
loved
Green
it.
People is awesome. This one's a little bit more interesting just in the fact that it actually happened and
The green
we know
people
it
did.
happened.
Wait, hold on. The green people didn't actually happen, Chad?
Well, I mean,
Uh-oh.
there's just so little to go on with that.
We just need to know where their Jolly Green Giant father is. That's the real mystery. Where did he go?
Yeah, it's kind of a ridiculous story. I don't know about
I freaking love it.
but yeah. Have you guys ever heard of the Tunguska event?
I think I have. Is this the one in Russia with the
I think
tent
it's
or whatever?
Siberia. Let me
Siberia?
look.
Is all the people that were like
Over there.
in a tent and then
No,
longer?
that one's really cool though.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. That one is in Russia. That
Got
one's
it.
called Dyatlov Pass.
Okay.
And we will bring that up. I
Yeah.
will, because that's actually one of my favorite, like, weird circumstance,
Yeah,
missing
okay.
persons, murder, mystery type of things. But the Tunguska event is actually the biggest explosion recorded in human history. And not very many people know about it because it's very... So it happened in 1908. Let me see the exact date. June 30th, 1908. Largest explosion ever recorded in history. I believe it was Siberia. It's a forest in Siberia. I think Tunguska is what the forest is called, if I'm remembering correctly.
I'll allow
2,000...
it.
What was that?
I said I'll allow it. Go on.
2,000 times the explosive force than Hiroshima, the bombs on
Whoa.
Hiroshima. Set off seismic meters all over the world. It was said that you could see, I think someone in England was, it was a seismologist, and he saw the glow, and he said you could read the paper at night from the glow that was going on from this. It flattened 80 million trees in an 18 to 25 mile square radius. And
What
the most interesting thing about it, first, villagers or people nearby, obviously nearby enough to see it, but not close enough to die.
Yeah. So did people die? By the way, people had to get smoked from this thing,
I think
right?
it was a pretty remote area. This
Really?
is a massive forest. But they saw flashes in the sky.
Okay.
Some people recorded that they noticed glowing clouds at least a day before the flashes in the sky.
Okay.
So I'll get into the main theories and the most interesting thing about it. There is no impact crater.
Huh.
There is just flattened trees, and they have pictures. I think, I mean, they're old-timey pictures. I assume those are the real things. I actually should have looked into that a little bit more. But there are pictures, and it's just flattened trees, and they're flattened away from the center. So as if something landed or impacted the Earth, but there was no crater. The fact that like something fell down made people think, okay, it was an asteroid, a comet, or something like that. So that's the big mystery of it.
Huh.
The main theory, obviously, you get a ton of people thinking UFOs,
Pokemon.
Pokemon, yeah. Someone
Dragon
involved-
Ball Z.
Yeah.
Thanos is at it again. That dick.
I mean, that's the interesting thing. Anything explosive, it kind of should have left a crater.
Yeah. That's,
So, the main theory is that it was a comet.
okay.
And this isn't.
What time of the year was it? Was it even around Christmas or?
It was June 30th.
Okay.
Is that one of the reindeer
Yeah.
names? Okay. I should
You better
know
keep
that
that in post, Chad.
Anyways, and that the comet, which is made of just ice and water,
Yeah.
exploded above the Earth, a mile or two above.
Which
the
would
Earth.
explain the flashes that people saw in the sky.
Explain the
before.
flashes. I think that there were. I mean, there are problems with this theory. It's not but it is the most accepted. But because it was a comet, it just disintegrated. But yeah, super
How does it
interesting.
flatten that many trees if it disintegrates in the sky?
Well,
Just huge
I'm no
chunks of-
scientist,
yeah.
but yeah, like comets, when they're going that fast and they're entering an atmosphere, break up and explode.
Sounds scientific to me.
Anyways, yeah,
wild.
it's super interesting. Apparently, that glow in the sky lasted multiple days.
Really? Weird.
Yeah, weird stuff. I think that's pretty much it.
Did it create like tidal waves and stuff like that from the like shockwave?
No. No, there was. I mean, I didn't read anything like that, but super interesting thing. Biggest explosion in history, and just
Nobody ever talks about it.
human history. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
And my history teacher could not shut up about Hiroshima and Nagasaki and didn't say anything about the Tunguska event.
I don't.
It's like
We'll keep that.
let's have a fair and balanced approach to history here, you know.
Anyways, food for thought.
Please don't cancel me, by the way.
Do you guys know the difference? This is something I learned while I was
Yeah.
looking up this story. You know the difference between a meteor and a meteorite?
Is it-
A meteoroid.
Oh no, I was gonna say a meteorite's probably a piece of a meteor, right?
A meteorite is
Right.
a piece. Yes, yeah, it's a small stone.
Doesn't it like a meteorite evolves into a meteor and then it evolves into a meteoroid? when it gets to a
Then
highest,
It was
a
continuing
higher
the,
level.
one of
Yeah.
the lesser accepted theories, but a theory nonetheless. The Pokemon theory.
Yeah, the Pokemon
Yeah,
theory.
there's
Yep.
that a Charizard evolved into a meteorite.
Meteoroid.
No, a meteoroid is in space, and once it enters a planet's atmosphere, it's a meteor.
Cool. I'm gonna sound
Not that.
so smart at the next cocktail party.
Yeah.
When I bring that
good,
up.
good luck. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At your next
welcome.
astrology cocktail party.
The next time one of my dumb uncles tries to like say cool facts to make him seem smart, I'm gonna drop that on him
Do you actually have cocktail parties?
all the time. You don't have cocktail parties all the time?
You're lying.
I am lying. It's true.
Good.
Not a common occurrence, but that's what they say. Your cocktail party material. I like that. Good conspiracy mystery corner.
Yeah,
Chad?
sort of conspiracy, a little bit of science,
Yeah.
and probably a little bit of misinformation.
Listeners out there, if you have theories on the Tunguska event, let us know.
The Tuscan event. The Tuscan Raider event.
That's it.
I wish. Yeah.
All right, gang, should we get into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, I want to talk about Julia Thomas with y'all. So, Julia Thomas caring for Jacob Waltz, the Dutchman, right? He's got pneumonia. He's old. He's about to die. The story goes that he spent those final months imparting a lot of clues to Julia Thomas as to the whereabouts, basically setting up Julia Thomas as the inheritor of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine, or the location of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. Julia Thomas, as kind of confirmation that this actually happened. So one, there's a lot of accounts that this happened, and two, we'll get into this, Julia Thomas kind of built a second career out of this. But the more interesting thing is, so Julia Thomas grew up in New Orleans, moved from New Orleans to the the settlement that is now Phoenix in the 1890s. She's 29 years old. She owns this property, but she ran a bakery in town. That was her profession. Really shortly after Jacob Waltz dies, do you know what Julia Thomas does? She bakes sorry you died
She's
cake.
a funeral cake.
Yeah. No, maybe she did. She sells her bakery. So I think this is, and we talk about this a lot. Like, one of my favorite things is when you kind of learn about these treasure hunts. There's obviously they're met with a lot of skepticism. But man, anytime you see somebody, you got one life to live, and anytime you see somebody go, I'm going all in, I'm risking everything on searching for this treasure. I think that's pretty freaking cool. A lot of times, in my opinion, that's an indication that there's some substance behind the treasure or whatever people are pursuing. But also, what a cool, crazy thing to decide to do with your life. So Julia Thomas sells her bakery, and Julia Thomas funds the very first actual expedition into the Superstition Mountains in pursuit of the Dutchman's gold mine. So she's armed with these clues, with all this knowledge that Jacob Waltz kind of imparted to her. Remember, he's suffering from pneumonia during these times and is old, and so there may be some blended fact and fiction here. We don't know. He might just be playing a super crazy end of life prank on her.
Does she mention that it could be a little bit iffy, the information she's received?
No.
Is that just you?
No, I mean, I think she has enough conviction behind it that she sells her entire livelihood to go after it.
Here's my question. Before we get too deep there, is where is all of his gold? If this guy's been pulling gold out for so long, where is it? And is he not fantastically wealthy?
Last time, didn't you say he would just go up and get a little and then come back down?
So there are varying stories here about what the Dutchman did with the gold and what happened to the gold, right? A lot of the stories that you read is that he would just go up a couple times a year and come back. You have to remember, you're going up, it's a trek into the mountains. You're pretty removed from civilization. And he was, according to him, his partner in this operation was killed by Apache Indians. He was very aware of the fact that the Apache Indians were protecting this gold mine, and so this wasn't a thing where you're going to go bring a party in and excavate the mine over several weeks and bring back millions and millions of dollars of gold. So they'd go and take what they could, come back. He would go up, take what he could, and come back. Other people say that he had some kind of agreement with the Apache Indians up there, and people speculate that agreement included probably something around hey, I'm not going to just going to take what I need kind of thing, right? But there are also stories. So one story is that Jacob Waltz bequeathed to Julia Thomas. He pulled up the floorboards of his house before he left the flood and grabbed some gold and bequeathed it to her. I'm going to be careful about saying that word again. Another story is there's a guy, I can't remember his name, but several dozen or even hundreds of pounds of gold passed on to this other guy that was a friend of Jacob Waltz upon his death, that he bequeathed to him. So, so really near the end of his life, Jacob Waltz was kind of bequeathing everywhere, according to some people. I don't know. That story kind of stinks to me, if you ask me, but
that's good. Okay.
I think
it died with
good?
that one.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, you're good.
Done. Anyways, there's not a lot of like clarity around that, and to be honest, a lot of the skepticism around like the reality and the substance of the mine, how much gold was actually up there, is, it starts around it starts even before that, but it starts around this that exact question that you asked, which is like, if this guy has unique access to this mine of untold wealth, well, where are the manifestations of that wealth? And people say he actually lived a really quiet life. He was pretty removed from society largely. He had a property that was pretty far away from the kind of Phoenix town that was forming.
Some people say that the treasure was the memories that he made along the way.
The friendships that he made.
Friendships with the Apaches, the friends that he killed along the way.
Exactly. Okay, so Julia Thomas sells her bakery. She's going to fund this expedition. She teams up with these two brothers, right? The Petrash brothers.
What year is this?
This is 1892 is when they head out. So in between Jacob Waltz's death in the end of 1891, October 1891, and August, so about, 10 months pass, they head out. I'm assuming there's several months of preparation. They're buying supplies, materials. It's just 3 people, but they're going to go. I mean, really, they have clues about where it is, but it's not like they have like a GPS. So they've got to go up and find the thing, right? They got to follow the clues and find it. So the Petrash brothers, 2 great old-timey names. You ready for them? Reinhardt and Herman Petrash.
Those are really good.
Classic.
Reinhardt.
Those are good treasure
That's a
hunter
name
names.
Exactly.
Yeah, put it on the list right by Bridger.
I almost wonder whether Julia, like I imagine, like, in cartoons, she kind of goes into the old bar and she's like, I'm looking for some rough riders to come up into the mountains and find gold with me. You lad, what's your name? And he's like, Reinhardt. She's like, you're in. You're part of the crew.
My name's Chad.
Yeah.
Can I come? Like, no.
Bridger. Yep. Join the crew. Saddle
you're
up.
In.
I love it. Okay, so this kind of like assembled crew of prospectors head up into the Superstition Mountains. They spend most of their time around like Weaver's Needle, which we've talked about before, but that's where even kind of modern theories are that like the gold mine is kind of around this landmark Weaver's Needle. As you can imagine, based on the fact that I'm not telling the story about the Thomas family wealth, it didn't go well. So there's but before I get into that, there's this great newspaper article published in September of 1892. So like 2 or 3 weeks after they head out, they start to get word that this expedition is happening and that nothing is working so far. But in the Arizona Weekly Gazette, check this for a title for a newspaper article. Imagine you wake up September 1892 and you open your Arizona Weekly Gazette and you see the title, "A Queer Quest, Another Lost Mine Being Hunted by a Woman." What a great reflection of the times.
I don't know what part to comment on.
Is that there were women hunting other lost mines,
Yeah,
or is it just
apparently,
another
yeah.
lost mine that was hunted this time?
Yeah.
There's a woman.
Can you imagine the
hunting.
editor? Like,
I
there's
can.
one other story, and the editor
Yeah.
is like, "What are these women doing?"
What are they up to?
Yeah, another woman looking for a lost
women
gold
I'm
mine.
curious
mines?
what those other stories are. But I will say, we just did the previous series,
Yeah,
Montezuma, the all-women town
City
council in
council.
Kanab.
Yeah,
That covered as the men went and dug.
that's right.
I mean, they were in charge.
Women
They
play.
were a big part of that.
Treasure history is treasure herstory, if you ask me, guys.
You've always said that.
I've always said that.
Yeah.
I've always been a firm supporter of gender equality in the treasure hunt, in the hunt for treasure. So it's great to see that reflected even in
Did
the
not know
1890s and
about you.
olden
I never
times.
saw it.
Yep.
I never heard you say anything.
Yep.
Until
treasure
now.
history. So The report from this expedition was not good. So they spent 3 weeks up there searching in the canyons and ravines. Like I said, near Weaver's Needle, there's another kind of place called Bluff Springs Mountain that they were searching. It's kind of in the east part of the Superstition Mountains. They went in. So if you've been in Phoenix, they went in August. That's not a great time to be treasure hunting in Phoenix. Was
just super hot,
crazy hot and dry. So several years later, Herman Petrasch has this quote. He told this guy William Cage this story. So he says, this is his own words: "We traveled eastward across the desert from Phoenix. It was extremely hot and hard on the team. The wagon was constantly giving us problems when we crossed Arroys. The wagon was, I hate it when they do that, cross Arroys. The wagon was soon abandoned some 3 miles from the face of the Superstition Mountain. From this point on, we walked and used the team to carry our gear. Our plans had included driving the team and wagon as close as possible to Weaver's Needle. We walked around the northwest end of Superstition Mountain and packed all of our supplies to the area of Weaver's Needle. This was a very difficult job. Our search was centered in the area of Weaver's Needle and Bluff Springs Mountain. The weather was so hot we spent most of the time in the shade and only searched in the early morning and late evening. After 3 or 4 weeks of extremely hot weather and the lack of water for the animals and ourselves, we abandoned the search and returned to Phoenix." So a couple things. One, I think this is where it's tricky. So Jacob Waltz did say that the mine was buried, I think he said in somewhere really rough. So that's got to be kind of gnarly if you think about this, because you got these like tensions at play. Julia Thomas has like mortgaged her entire life and livelihood to fund this expedition. She obviously probably has a high degree of confidence and a really high degree of conviction that she can find this, and she also knows that it's like not going to be easy to find. I gotta imagine like calling it quits has got to be a hard thing. Like you're risking everything, and you know it's supposed to be hard, but like the animals are starving, you're starving. 3 weeks up there. She continued to kind of pursue it a little bit after, but the truth is like this led to Julia Thomas's complete financial ruin.
Was there a point where she saw actual gold?
So that there are some stories that Jacob Waltz gave her some gold from the gold mine, right?
I just don't see someone selling their entire life without a little bit more than just a dying man saying, I mean, a poor dying man, like to your point, he doesn't look like he found a gold mine.
Right.
I mean, he lost his farm in the flood. Maybe there's a lot of gold lost there. I don't know. But yeah.
And to be clear, we don't know. There's no definitive sources that say like, hey, he didn't have any money or there wasn't any gold. There's a lot of different stories about how much gold he actually had and how he got the gold and how much gold he left up there and all that stuff.
Maybe that's why it took her so long, 10 months, after he died, to go looking for the gold. She was just brushing him off the whole time. Yeah, sure, Gramps. There's gold in the mines. All right. It's like that meme. Sure, Grandma, here, let's get you to bed. Yeah, let's get you to bed. And then only after the fact,
it's a good
maybe
point.
the next mystery conspiracy theory is that she didn't actually sell her bakery. It was going under.
Yeah, there you go.
Bakery was
Failed
going under.
business. Easy out.
This is us creating a conspiracy.
Yes, this is how it starts, folks.
And we'll see a little bit more about this. I think it's always hard to like you superimpose like what we think about things like rationality and morality and whatever on previous generations. But I will say, with that context, she's like a unique personality. And I think that like, I think it just takes a unique personality to go all in. And she's 29.
It does
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
But the point I was going to make was she sounds a lot more credible than some of the other stories we've heard. For example, in the Montezuma one, forget the guy's name, but he rides in on a bike.
Yeah.
He just rides into town, like coming out of mythology.
But I love that story.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really funny. Yeah.
There's like just a fog that he comes out of.
Exactly.
No, there's something about...
But with her, she sold her light. Like she went all in. She went all in, and that is fact, right? I assume.
That's right. Yeah.
That is fact.
That's right.
And so why did she go?
And this is in the 1890s where it's like, it's not like, it's not like you're going to be like, I'm going to go all in, but hey, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to become TikTok famous documenting the story, or I'm going to sell the rights to the book or whatever. Like she really
I don't think that's how people think nowadays, though.
I think some people do. They're like, yeah, I'm going to go do this. And like, even if I don't
I'm going to go on
find
this
treasure.
on this reality show.
Exactly.
But if I don't find
a
love,
wife, exactly, I'm
then
still
at
going to get
least
some
I'll
Instagram
find
followers.
That was a
fame.
really good example.
Exactly.
That was a really
Right?
good example.
She was not in it for Instagram followers. She was in it. She's like, my outcome is finding this freaking gold.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like, I think that whenever you find people that like mortgage their, that put the ante up of like their finances, their future, their time, their reputation, that always to me lends credibility to like, hey, there is something out there. Yeah, they might not be rational, or there might be some other like motives at play, but it at least gives some credibility.
Yeah.
You want to hear the other crazy thing? This is kind of a
Yes.
sad but really crazy thing about the expedition. So come to find out that exactly where Julia Thomas and the Trash Brothers were looking, under their feet was actually like pretty massive mines. So short while later in 1893, the C.R. Hanks, Orrin Merrill, and J.R. Morse in November of 1892, they staked a claim in this exact land that Julia Thomas and the Trash Brothers were searching for, what became two different mines, the Black Queen Mine and the Mammoth Mines. These turned out to be massive veins, turned into huge mining operations. For example, the Mammoth Mine ended up producing over $3 million of gold. So somebody got rich searching for gold exactly where they were searching. It just wasn't, unfortunately, Julia Thomas
So this
or the
is
Trash Brothers.
I like this story because this is even more credibility. Like, we're talking about the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine, but there was gold
That's right.
there.
That's right.
There
There's
was
gold in them
actually
hills.
gold there. There
That's
were
right.
two gold mines.
Yeah.
So there were likely more.
Yeah, and
So
some
I like
historians, so to be clear, some historians ascribe to the theory that the Black Queen Mine was the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. What I don't know are the exact details around, like, well, how mined was this mine? Was it really just a raw vein of gold that they found that they turned into a mine? Was it a like half mined little hole that they actually turned into a mining operation?
I'd
And
be
the other thing
interested
is
in-
like, at what point, like, did the Apaches kind of just call it? Were they like, oh, all right, like, you guys are good now. You can mine up in here. Like, where were the like?
Honestly, the stories of the Apache Native Americans like defending a mine
Yeah,
sound a little bit more like, it's not that I don't believe it, it's that it sounds a little bit more of like someone who is mining makes up this story to get people to stay away.
stay away. That's a good
Do you
point.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because I don't know. I just don't see that. I don't see
Yeah.
them being like, no, you can't mine this.
yeah. The thing that's
Yeah, it's
crazy
like-
though is like you do, like, there are already stories, right, of like the Peralta massacre, and like finding
That's true.
finding human remains that were murdered, decapitated, with gold in the saddlebags and all that stuff. Like, but so I think like, but I guess the point
That's
is
true.
like,
That's
what maybe started as, hey, we're defending our territory, or we're defending the home
Right.
of the Thunder God, turned into, hey, the Apaches are still doing this, so stay away. And it's interesting because this bleeds actually into modern. We'll get into this next episode. There's a lot of stories like of 20th century people going up looking for the Lost Dutchman Gold Mine and not coming back, and finding decapitated remains and finding dead bodies. And
Is there any gold with these more
wounds
recent ones?
and stuff like that? No. But there are people that so it's modern enough that there are people that are like they're kind of being declaratory before they go. Like, I'm going up into the mines to look for the Lost. So we know they're looking for the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine, but they die, and it's
Yeah.
like a shocking amount.
I can't
of
wait
people
to get
die
to
up
those.
there. Yeah,
I'm excited.
Okay, so how big of a bummer is that though? Like, you're Julia Thomas, you're the Trash Brothers. Trash Brothers didn't sell their bakery, but they still, they went in on this thing.
They gave up on their hopes and dreams and jobs.
It's not like it's like, okay, people searched for 30 years more and then found these mines. It's literally like November 1892, so like 13 months after their expedition. They're up there, and it's not just like they stumbled upon it. That was the point at which they staked the claim, so they must have found it even before that. They went and formally staked the claim to mine. You gotta be so bummed. So Julia Thomas, destitute, comes back to Phoenix. She ends up marrying. So she marries a guy, and there's a couple more things as it relates to the mine and kind of the end of her life. But She marries this guy, Albert Schaefer, who's a farm worker.
Albert's
Schaffer.
not a treasure hunting name.
That's not a treasure hunting.
No.
Yeah, you could tell by
Yeah,
the
as
name of the
soon as
man
you
that she
said
married,
it.
she was kind of out of the treasure hunting game. Yeah. But Schaefer, this guy is like, hey, you know what you should do, Julia? You should start selling maps. He's like, everybody in town knows you sold your bakery because Jacob Waltz told you where the mine was. You should, based on what he told you, draw these maps from your memory
Sounds
and
like
sell
we're
them to
getting
people.
scam territory
A
here.
little bit of
You said
respect
Albert
the
wasn't a
hustle.
treasure hunter, but he sounds like a gold digger.
He's a hustler. Yeah.
No doubt.
Get it, Albert. Get some.
He wanted to be a stay-at-home farm dad. no more of this farm hand life.
Which, by the way, like, how many people in the course of human history do you think are like, I made a living by drawing maps to treasure based on memory? It's got to be pretty few. That's an elite group of professionals over the course of history.
I like the idea, honestly. I feel like there aren't a lot of people back then that had
Yeah.
that type of entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, I like it. He's a
mindset.
hustler.
Yeah, that's a
Gary
good
V,
idea.
baby, get it.
Yeah, it's a little scammy, but I don't know. I don't know about her sales pitch.
1893 Gary V.
1893 version of Gary V. You just get out. You just got to get out there and hustle.
I don't know about her sales pitch as far as like, I went up,
I know.
didn't find anything.
Yeah. It's
Here's
like, I'm going to
map
trust
to
the
nothing.
lady.
Like,
I'm going to trust the lady that lost all of her money
Right,
looking
yeah.
for the Lost Dutchman Gold Mine to tell me where the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine is. Yeah.
She probably
That's
titled
true.
it "The Map to Nothing."
But so Julia Thomas, one final little kind of anecdote. This is from the Apache Junction Public Library. Shout out, good resource for the Superstition Mountains and the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine. Julia Thomas, and Albert became involved in a mystic type religion around 1900.
Okay.
Julia Thomas Schaefer now also became involved with a problem on the Indian reservation near Tucson. So they moved down to Tucson in the early weeks of December 1900. Jim Blaine, a Papago medicine man, made a complaint against her. Blaine encouraged the authorities to rescue the Papago nation from the religious fanaticism of the strange woman filled with the devil, Julia Thomas.
And from her next failing bakery. Terrible roles.
Exactly. She went from a baker to a treasure hunter to a map hustler to a religious fanatic with
Do
the
we know
devil.
like what the religion was?
I don't.
Yeah, I wonder if she like got into it.
Essential oils, probably.
It's
why the medicine man's
It's
out
the
there.
natural progression.
Yeah, get her out of
What the
here.
hell is this oil?
She's like, just rub your temples.
That's funny.
Spritz a
Put
little
some
peppermint
lavender
your
on it. You'll
wrist.
be fine.
She's trying to get the Native Americans down there into her downline, and Jim Blaine, the Papago medicine man, was not having it. One other funny story. In 1911, so they moved back up. They get booted out of Tucson, moved back up to Phoenix. In 1911, an insane man attacked Albert Schaefer and pulled out much of his red beard, screaming that he had his wife buried on their property. Indeed, the Schaefer's place was a strange setting, with its fire pits burning all the time and a strange religion being practiced on the property. Albert and Julia continued with their place until her death from bright disease on December 17th, 1917.
This bright disease.
It's like it's like when you get like you're so sick of all these lights. You know what I mean? And you're just like, I hate it.
You're joking.
I have no idea what bright disease is. It's one of those old diseases that
When
killed
did she
people.
die?
1917, December 17th.
So she was around for Tunguska.
Oh,
She maybe
There could be
bright
a
disease
connection.
from the lights from the Tunguska explosion. So she dies at 55, no relatives. At her death, buried in the Jewish cemetery in Phoenix, and that is the close of Julia Thomas's wild, strange life in semi-pursuit of the Lost Dutchman Gold Mine.
I like that. That's awesome. So the story is going on from now.
Yep.
Are they connected to Julia Thomas, or is it going to be a lot of disconnected stories of people
great
going
question.
missing?
Great question. So one other thing from Julia Thomas, it is kind of assumed, suspected that another way that she made money is that she was the anonymous source for a super famous newspaper article that came out in 1895 in the San Francisco Chronicle, which was like a largely distributed newspaper at the time. Pierpont C. Bicknell wrote an article about the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine. And a lot of the things that he cited about the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine aligned with how Julia Thomas was searching for the mine and her maps that she drew and everything like that. So it was at that time, it was starting to gain some regional and even national repute as like a legit treasure that people
Once
could
that
pursue.
article.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a lull, but what we're going to get into next episode is that doesn't stop. There continues to be conversation and hype and newspaper articles about this, which leads to a lot of people, like I said, in the 21st century, making a trip out to the Superstition Mountains, thinking like, hey, I've got this. I'm going to go search for the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine, and a lot of them losing their lives. And there's another thing. We've talked about the Peralta stones before. Mm-hmm. The Peralta stones get allegedly kind of rediscovered in the 1950s and are on display now. And a lot of people believe that the Peralta stones are, give some indication as to where the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine is. And so that kind of rekindled a lot of the fervor around searching for the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine in the Superstition Mountains, and people dying trying to do that.
Awesome. A couple questions. How modern do the stories get? That we're going to share? Like how recently to today?
I mean, depends now. Do you want to jump on a plane? We can be as modern as next week.
Yeah, the last episode will be us going missing. That's going to be it.
I think that the last death is in the 90s. I don't think there's any in the 2000s, really? But in the 1990s.
I want to know what people in the modern era, if they're finding these veins of gold, do you have to stake a claim? How do you stake a claim?
I have
these
no
days?
idea.
It's all private, land, or government owned.
That's one of the things that we've talked about, and I've thought more about.
Should we learn how to prospect?
Yeah, it's weird to think about a mine as a treasure, because I'm I wouldn't know
That's
the
so much
first thing to do.
Yeah,
you could point me in a mine that you could be like, there's $10 million of
drop
gold
a
in
pin
here, and I'd be
first off,
you could drop me a pin. Yeah,
I'll drop you a pin,
and I'd be like, what do I do? I don't know. I'd show up with a hammer.
Yeah,
I guess.
And then
you get some raw gold ore. Well, what do you do from that? Do you just put it in a fire? What do you? How do you make gold? I guess is what I'm asking. I have no idea. So I kind of like the idea of give me my treasures in a wooden chest with gold pirate coins. That's kind of the way I want.
The most recent actual treasure that has been found was a shipwreck, and that's
there's
chests. So that sounds a lot easier.
Give me some bearer bonds.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
But I'd rather do that than mine.
Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to say, I don't like the Peralta stones.
You're not down with them? I love them, dude.
Go look at them.
Yeah.
It looks like I've never seen something
it's
that
wild.
looks more fake.
I love it for that reason, though. It's got a squirrel.
Child.
It does.
Go here.
And they're broken, and it's got it is so random. It's got 1955. And then it's got a spiral, and then a little hieroglyphic of a deer. Have you seen these before?
Yeah, I thought it was a little horse, but
maybe a little horse. Yeah, hieroglyphic of horse. That's the stuff. You're right that it's it looks fake, but it's the fact that it's it's almost cooler to me if it's fake. It's almost cooler to me if there's some guy who's it's going to be hilarious. I'm just going to hide this on the side of the road, maybe tip somebody off, nudge somebody in the right direction. And there's some 85-year-old man right now who's there's the son of an old man who
there's a
told
150-year-old man right now.
Son, I'm doing the math in 1955. Told his son, hey, guys, on his deathbed. He's I gotta tell you about this great prank that I pulled. He's those Peralta stones that are on display at the museum? I did those. I think that's awesome.
I assume if it's in a museum that they've done, well, I don't know if carbon dating or whatever matters, because isn't
they've
even
got to do
real,
some sort of authentication,
right?
Yeah, I'm sure they've authenticated it somehow, but I almost, even if it's real, would think that it's the scenario that you're describing.
You can defer to the museum curators and the historians. I defer to the message boards, and the message boards think that they're real. So,
okay.
Yeah.
This is the voice of the people.
Treasure Dude 1746 says that they're real, and I believe him. So
we're all in.
Awesome. Well, I'm actually super excited to get to the rest of the stories.
Yep.
Get to the murders.
A lot of murders.
Like murders and murder mysteries.
Yep.
Well, just murder mysteries.
So it's people that are either murdered by natural causes, coyotes, or by other humans, and we're gonna find out.
Awesome. Well,
okay.
Thank you, Alex, again for your awesome storytelling. Bridger, first time. How'd it go? How'd you feel?
It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Exciting. It's captivating storytelling. What more is there?
That's it. I love it.
For all of our listeners, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one outside.
Catch you on the flippity.
On the flippity.
Cha-ching.